Hi, my name is Charity McDowell. I am a researcher for Sports Equity Lab, and I just graduated from Stanford University with my master's in community health and prevention research. Also had the honor of playing volleyball there to wrap up my career. And today we're going to be talking about the relationship between fan culture and how that impacts the athlete and their well-being and their performance. To set the stage a little bit, August 10th, 2024 was the men's U.S. gold medal basketball match. And within that game, it was electric. Like you have like the fans and everything, and they're great. Like the environment is amazing, and the U.S. come out with the dub. A week later, you have fans and you have spectators at WNBA games throwing sex toys out on the courts. What is going on? The drastic comparison between the two, like you can't help but question and ask, how does that impact the athlete? How does the environment that they are performing in impact their performance and their well-being within the game and also beyond it? And so in response to this, Stanford and with Sports Equity Lab, our lab, we actually conducted a 2024 Olympic consensus on violence and safeguarding. And the purpose of this was to explore just that. How is this environment impacting the athlete? And within that, we had three different elements that we were looking at, which were spectator behavior, media, and economic factors. And that is exactly what we're going to be hitting on today and talking about, trying to capture your narrative, Allyson, on how, in your experience and what you've seen and what you've done, how that impacts the well-being and the performance of the athlete. So, Allyson, Felix, thank you so much for having this conversation and being a part of this. It's easy to say, like people say, oh, you're the GOAT at this, you're the GOAT at this, and they don't really mean it. But when we say you're the GOAT, we mean it. So, Allyson, thank you so much, and please introduce yourself.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for the important work that you are doing, that you're a part of. Yes, I'm Allyson Felix. I am a track and field Olympian. I am a seven-time gold medalist. I am also the co-founder of SAISH, a footwear company for women, and a founding partner at Always Alpha, a sports agency that focuses fully on female athletes. And I'm really excited to be a part of this conversation.
Amazing. Let's get it started. So first off, I want to hear about your experience and what do spectators and fans, what do they need to know about how their behavior impacts the athlete?
Yeah, I think, spectators and fans who are in close proximity to athletes need to know that they are a part of the environment. And as athletes, I think we really thrive off of the energy of the crowd. I mean, any athlete you talk to, they love to go into a packed stadium. They love to feel, energized and motivated to perform. But I think today we're seeing more than ever, the impact that negativity from fans can actually have on athletes. Everything from, I've heard of, verbal insults being hurled at athletes in the field of play, being touched by, fans, interfering with the course of play. And I think, then the fans become a part of what's happening in competition. And that's something that really changes everything. I think not only as an athlete can you feel disrespected, can you feel impacted by this interaction, but you're also distracted. I think it also takes away from the performance that you want to give. And I think like never before, we're seeing the access that people have to athletes. And that can be an amazing thing to, add to the performance, or it can be really negative and have a detrimental effect to that athlete. And so I guess as a fan, the message is that, you want to add and not take away and just make sure that, everyone is respected, the same respect that, you want to receive as you're witnessing these incredible feats. We hope that you also give that to the athletes who are front and center as well.
Yeah. And I've personally just hearing from athletes and teammates and other people in my specters, that really does make all the difference. Like exactly what you're saying, like the difference that it makes when you know that your fan base is supporting you versus when they're really just like seeing you as an object. Like these people aren't just objects, they're human beings. And what gets me the most is whenever there are fans and spectators who I'm standing in the stands next to, maybe at a football game or something like that. And they're like yelling at the players and all this stuff. And it's like, you go out there and do that, and then you will realize how difficult it is, let alone like having that like stress from everyone else or sending death threats and all these things. At the end of the day, it's sport, and these are human beings, and they're beyond their sport. And so I think it's really important for fans to know that, and exactly what you just said as well. So adding on to this, are there any other environmental conditions that you think help athletes to truly perform at their best?
I think everything comes from preparation and, being able to feel your most confident self when you go out to the field of play. I was thinking about what you just said. I think a lot of times people do not see athletes as human. And I think that has been taken away. And so as an athlete and as you're going through your preparation, the environment that you want to be able to have is the best. You want to be able to, feel like you can give your all and focus on that, when you go out there. So everything from, having a supportive team, from making sure that everything is conducted how it should be, that, everything is done with integrity, how your competition is run, who is in charge, making sure things are respectful between your competitors, making sure that you're on a level playing field. Kind of all of those are other factors that you want to make sure are intact when you go out for your biggest performance.
Yeah. Beautifully said. We're going to shift to the media, because media is huge. We can't really escape it today, especially with social media and all this stuff, and everyone has an opinion, and it's just like, it can be really overwhelming on the athlete side of things. But I want to hear, in your career, can you give us examples of when you saw it go wrong, when you saw media go wrong, and also when it went right?
Oh, I think there's been a lot of cases of like when it's gone wrong, I think as an athlete, you expect criticism. And so, there's always going to be stories that are surrounding, maybe your performance. I remember personally for me, at the 2012 Olympic trials, I had a race where I tied with my teammate, my training partner. We tied for the last spot to make the 100-meter team. And it was something that had never happened before. There were no rules that were set in place to deal with a situation like this. And it became just a huge media story, and everything from, stories about what should happen, being very critical. There was the social media aspect of it where I felt like a lot of people were voicing their own opinions. Some felt like, I should give my spot up, or I should do this or that. And at that time, I could see all of it. I was aware that it was all going on, and I think it was having an impact on me. I came to a place where I had to just like shut it all down and like block it all out. But I think, it shows that we athletes are human. We are affected and impacted by all that goes on. The media, oftentimes is just doing their job. And so I have deep respect for that. I think on the social side of things, and everyone having access, that's where I do have to like put up boundaries. And again, I think that oftentimes people don't see you as human. They'll say anything to you, and they're not thinking like, oh, someone is on the receiving end of this. So, there's all of that. And then there's the moments, you have the glory moments where everything goes right and you're celebrated, and the media amplifies that story, and that can really help you. That can help your brand, and that can help the reach of people who get that information. So it kind of goes both ways. I think we understand that, like you said, you can't escape the media. It's a part of sport. It's a big part of sport. It's a positive part, but it can also be a part that can be heavy. Everyone deals with things differently, and so it definitely can have an impact on you.
Yeah, no doubt. And the fact that you use that, everything, you look up Allyson Felix, and it's like all of the things that you've done in sport, but then it's also you talking about your experiences. Like, you use your voice through social media, which is really special because you have a lot of girls and people looking up to you, right? And like, you being able to be that trailblazer, not only on the I almost said court, but on the track, but also in life, also on stages. And it's really great to see. And I hope that other athletes coming up after you, after me, like they see that and they know that they can be that too. They don't have to just let the media talk to them and like put them down. They can put what they want and their experiences into the media to help change it as well, which is amazing.
Yeah, I think now more than ever, we're seeing that ownership. And I love that, we're seeing athletes take hold of their own narrative and add to it and, yeah, create their own content and really have this voice. And I think, for all the negativity that can happen on social media, there is this really positive message that can come out of it, or creating something, and really flipping the script. And so I absolutely love to see that. I think we're still at the very beginning of that as well.
Yeah, we are. I completely agree. With economic stability, that's what I'm thinking about now. We're just shifted a little bit. Economic stability. What would you say the connection is between economic stability and financial empowerment, along with the overall well-being and safety of the athlete?
Well, I think as we experience more of it, and I think especially as women in sport, it's been behind, for a very long time. But I think we are more empowered, as we get there, and we are able to do more when we have a seat at the table and have more impact. And so I think our confidence builds as we get there. And I think, we have a long way to go. But we are also, seeing a huge change happen right now. We're seeing a huge shift. We're seeing brands that were never in women's sports start to enter. We're seeing, the emergence of NIL, and we're seeing athletes at a very young age, starting to really be able to make a significant amount of money. And of course, it's a bit of the wild, wild west right now, and more needs to happen and develop there. But things are changing, and so I think that we will see a more empowered and confident athlete, and be able to take on more as that continues to move forward.
Yeah, beautifully said. NIL is like, that's changing the game. Like as a college athlete, like it's changing the game of athletics. I don't know if it's for like the good or the bad quite yet, but like you're completely right.
Yeah. Still unfolding, TBD. Yeah, we'll see. We need you guys to do some studies on that.
Oh, trust, I think it's already in the works. Don't worry.
But it is. It's a different time, and I'm grateful for these opportunities. But there is, when you talk about safeguarding, and when you talk about, some of those things that have to come into place, I think we need it now more than ever, because you think of a young athlete who is faced with a reality that is so different than so many of us have experienced. They need support to get through that. And yeah, there's a lot of upside, but there's a lot of cause for concern as well.
That's our last question. If you could tell spectators, media, professionals, and sports leaders one thing they should do to help create positive change in sport, what would it be?
I would say to be an active, to view yourself as a part of the movement. I think about, what's happening in women's sports right now. And I think about, the fans that are coming in person. I think instead of, having this negativity and distraction and, some of the things that we were talking about earlier that, some fans are engaging in, if they could really be a part of the solution, if they could actively take ownership in seeing some of the success of these sports. And that's everything from, showing up in person, from watching, on television, from supporting the individual athletes, whether they have their own brands, whether they have podcasts or merch. Like, let's support, let's be a part of this, this momentum and make it where this is not a fleeting moment, where this is something that's here to stay, and we're at the beginning, and that the next generation is going to experience a totally different reality. And so I hope that we can kind of shift our perspective from only seeing ourselves as, supporting and showing up, but to taking an active role to making things different.
Beautifully said. And on top of that, what you just said reminds me that we all have a role to play. Like, it's not only the athletes, it's not only the Allyson Felixes of the world, it's every single person. We all have to do something to actually improve the well-being of these athletes and to create a safe environment so that people can go out there and do what they love to do, and that fans can go out there and enjoy the game that they've come to support. So, Allyson, thank you so much for being a part of this conversation, sharing your narrative and helping the world see like that sport is a community thing and we need to keep it that way. Athletes want to enjoy the game and fans want to enjoy the game, and so we can all be in it together. So thank you so much, and I am looking forward to seeing you at Stanford in October for the event. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me and for this conversation.